Justin, we start by talking about your goals coming into Fast and Furious 6.
Well, when I first, it's interesting because when I first came in to do Tokyo Drift, a lot of the conversation with Vin and with a lot of the cast and studio was that if we can earn our way into more movies, we were going to hopefully evolve these characters and also acknowledge that, they're maturing, and so that the obstacles can kind of alter and evolve with them. And so it's great to be sitting here 8 years later to be basically wrapping everything up. This is the culmination of everything we talked about 8 years ago.
Each film has grown in scope and scale. Can you talk about how you've done that and still kept it so that the story informs every single piece of action?
Yeah, I mean, on a personal level, I always want to challenge myself and use everything that I've learned and just always try to take it to the next level. And that's part of the fun. And at the same time, I think every chance we get to make another one, it's a privilege. It's something that we've earned, that people have embraced and want to see, and I want to make sure that we deliver that. But I think at the heart of it is not losing sight of the fact of why this franchise is successful, and evolve that, evolve that theme of family. And what is it about the idea of family? Is it about freedom, trust, sacrifice? All these themes are very rich and important, and we have a lot of characters to explore that through. And so I think as we've grown, this thing has been mapped out to be, the 4, 5, and 6 was always mapped out to really explore these characters that we met in the first 3 Fast and Furious movies. And so naturally, when you do that, it's just going to keep growing. And I think that's the best way to not force it, make it artificial, is to let it grow on its own.
When you bring back a character that's believed dead, and to do it in such an organic and natural way like you've done, can you talk about how you wanted to do that?
Part of bringing Letty back, we were talking about that all the way back to when we were doing Fast 4, and I think if you can do that thematically and you can do that correctly, people will actually accept that. I know it sounds crazy when you first hear about it, but I think a lot of the seeds were planted early on, and so that when she comes back in 6, it's about finding, not only the real clues on why she's alive, but you realize it was actually designed thematically for both Brian and Dom, in dealing with their, in their themes of trust, and also at the same time why in the last 2 movies, what drove them and what the guilt that they had to live with.
How is Shaw, and why is he such a compelling antagonist for Dom and team?
The thing that was exciting to create the character of Shaw was because I think Dom at this point after Fast 5 has become so iconic, not only in character but also in his ideology, his philosophy of family and loyalty. And so it became very organic that if you're going to go against that it can't just be a baddie, he just can't be a bad guy. And I think Shaw, I wanted to make sure that there was a character that has a valid philosophy that directly challenges Dom and his.
And what does Luke bring to this?
Well, I mean, for an antagonist to come in and really challenge Dom Toretto, you really need a strong actor. And so when Luke Evans, when I found out he was, he was there and he was interested in doing it, that was the first call I made, because I think without Luke Evans, you just won't have really the depth, you won't have the strength to be able to kind of counter someone of Vin's stature.
We talk a little bit about after Fast 5, everyone was asking, how are you possibly going to top those action sequences? And you've done it. Can you talk about what you wanted with these scenes, and as many as there are, how each is intentionally so different from the other?
Yeah, I know the idea of coming back to do Fast 6 and making it the culmination of this chapter of Fast and Furious was definitely a challenge, but I felt it was important and it was a challenge worth taking, But I knew that kind of going in. So the plane sequence, for example, there's actually 7 action sequences going on at once. But that was being designed back in '09. I've had 4 years to design that, and I knew that everything was going to end with the plane sequence. But at the same time, there was challenges even in a lot of the fight scenes, and those were designed for character moments, and just organically, I think as we were wrapping up Fast 5 going to Fast 6, it was great because again, it was not artificial in saying that we need it to be bigger, we need more. It just, because we were bringing all the characters back, it just felt like they all needed to prove a certain point in where they are in their arc, and it just became very organic to design all that.